Roki Sasaki is the third Dodgers starting pitcher to go on the injured list in barely more than a month. An Angel City player has heart surgery. And by the way, 40% of the Chargers offensive line is still like, I don't know. Good morning. I'm James. And this is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the Faithful Angelenos Morning Report. It is May 14th, 2025. We have an absolute ton of news to talk about today. So, do you like being in the know about LA sports? Well, if you do, click the like button. Click the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know when we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. And by all means, comment. Now, before we go through the news and notes, quick look at the scoreboard. Sacramento 11, Dodgers 1. There's a reason for that fanny paddling out at the ravine last night. And we're going to get to it in just a moment. By the way, today, the A's are also playing the Dodgers again at 7:10. Philadelphia is at the Galaxy. It is Galaxy game day. They're going to be playing at Philadelphia at 4:30. The winless MLS champs posted a photo on their Twitter account. Greg Vanney was still in the pic, suggesting he's still the manager, and he was smiling, suggesting nobody pulled him aside and said, hey, bruh, a win or two might be a nice change of pace. And by the way, Seattle is at LAFC at 7:30. What do you say we get to the news? So once again, we begin with your daily Dodger injured pitcher update. It is a third starting pitcher. 60% of the opening day rotation is out. Now, I know they played 2 games in Japan, but let's be real. Opening day really was March 27th. 3 Dodgers starting pitchers have gone on the injured list in a month and a half. Roki Sasaki has shoulder impingement. So before we talk of Sasaki, can we just take a moment and just be in awe of this level of stupidity? 3 starting pitchers. How many arms does Mark Pryor get to dip in sulfuric acid before the Dodgers finally admit that sadism is not really an ideal way to coach pitching? If the Dodgers didn't add every single available starting pitcher in the Western Hemisphere during the offseason, we would call this a much bigger problem than it is. Name any other club that could lose 3 starting pitchers in a month and a half and whatevs. 2 of them are aces, Blake Snell and Tyler Glasnow. The third, Sasaki, in a few years, could be a potential future ace. All of them gone. Hundreds of millions of dollars have been invested in 14 injured pitchers. 9 of them are starters. 9 starting pitchers. Almost 2 full rotations worth. Just all those dollar bills and shovel them into the fireplace. And have you noticed every single year during baseball season, what dominates this channel? Injured Dodgers starting pitchers. Arms just exploding. Like the climactic scene of the movie 1917, and there's Dave Roberts running through the field trying to avoid the shrapnel. Dozens. And then they go, we don't know why, derp. Now, I'm saying this, by the way, out of tough love. I've been a lifelong Dodger fan. Now back to Sasaki. For those of you who don't know what shoulder impingement is, it hurts. I've had it, it hurts. It happens to weightlifters. Whenever you press something over your head, that's when you can really feel it. Because above the humerus is what is called the AC joint, the acromion and the clavicle. You can feel it around here. The impingement is when the muscles around your shoulder get pinched in between the acromion and clavicle. Because it's a joint, it will move and it will pinch. The Dodgers believe that's why Sasaki's infamous, shapeless, triple-digit fastball has dipped into the mid-90s. Now, how long the recovery will take is super vague. You can do the normal things in a couple of weeks when the irritated muscle relaxes and settles away from the AC joint, but pitching in Major League Baseball is not normal. So typical recovery, real recovery, can be 3 to 6 months. In a corresponding move, reliever J.P. Fireeisen was summoned from the Midwest manure pit, and he even pitched last night. And by the way, if you are wondering why the Dodgers got their booties kicked last night, consider Fireeisen. He allows 3 runs in 2 innings, raising his ERA to 11.25. This is the problem that arrives when your hobby is maiming athletes. You can only say next man up so often. And it wasn't just Fireeisen. Landon Knack started. He allowed 5 runs in 4 2/3 innings. Somebody recently told me, hey, as long as the Dodgers hit like that, there's not a problem. They didn't hit like that last night, guys. Years ago, there was a team, the Cleveland Indians, back in the 1990s, the late 1990s. Man, they were just a murderer's row. Manny Ramirez, young man, Albert Bell, just shredded lineup from top to bottom. No pitching, lost in the World Series to Florida. And that's what I think of when I see this team. So I'm genuinely serious when I say this. This is not a threat to the Dodgers during the regular season. We already know that. I'm talking about the playoffs. I'm talking about titles. What will finally convince the Dodgers to move on from Mark Prior? How many hundreds of millions of dollars do you have to waste on pitching, which winds up being wasted during the course of the season anyway, because you are going to trust that guy with Shohei Ohtani's arm? You're out of your damn mind for doing it. And by the way, that overshadows what should be terrific news for LA. Surefire first ballot Hall of Famer Clayton Kershaw will make his season debut Saturday against the Angels. He'll begin his 18th season in Dodger Blue, tying Bill Russell and Zach Wheat for most years with the franchise. Kershaw made only 7 starts last year before his season ended in August because of pain in his left big toe. He had multiple surgeries in the offseason, and he says he's pain-free. Hopefully, it'll stay that way until he gets the 32 strikeouts needed to get to 3,000, by the way. And by the way, here's a fun fact. We all look at Clayton Kershaw now as injury-prone. He wasn't early in his career. Clayton Kershaw had a lengthy history with no trips to the injured list until, wait for it, Mark Prior was hired. He was hired back in 2018, and that's when Clayton Kershaw started going on the injured list. And by the way, he is the 12th starting pitcher the Dodgers will have used since opening day. Lots of Dodgers news to complain about. Feel free to drop a comment or two. Angel City FC defender Savi King, we were told, had a medical event during Friday's match against Utah. A medical event. Like cramps. Leg cramps, you pervs. I'm not going there. Only it wasn't for leg cramps, and everybody knew it. You don't need chest compressions for leg cramps. So, ever since King collapsed on the pitch in the 74th minute and was taken to the hospital, damn near everybody involved has been tight-lipped about it. If you were a despotic head of state, this is how tightly lipped you want your people to be. You couldn't see anything on the Angel City website. You couldn't see anything on the NWSL website about this poor lady. Hey, everybody. Savi King, persona non grata, was only persona non grata except to her cardiologist. She had heart surgery Tuesday. Heart surgery. to address a heart abnormality. We don't know what the procedure was, but it was deemed a rousing success, performed over at Cedars-Sinai. Now look, in the aftermath, we don't have any idea what this means for King's playing career, which is perfectly understandable. It's much better to be alive, I understand. We do know, however, that the NWSL should address why they allowed the match to continue. Apparently, by the way, in spite of the spirit of its own policy, when it was clear that neither team particularly wanted to play. And by the way, I understand that too. This is kind of important. You need clarity. Most injuries, when you'd expect a trainer to massage a limb and then, oh, dude, rub some dirt on it. I don't want to see Savi King rubbing dirt on her heart. There was a lot of screw-ups in that match with that poor young lady. And best wishes on a quick recovery, whether it involves soccer or not. Yesterday, we repeated how after the NFL draft, the Chargers did not significantly address the interior offensive line. And so let's take a second look at it for kicks. I think overall it goes like this, that the Bolts believe they got deeper along the offensive line and their overall approach is, anybody want to play left guard? Can anybody play center? Because you look at the roster and you can sit there and go, you know what? 5 guys alone could win the left guard job. 5. And I don't even have to list all of them, but I can tell you at least 4 where you can sit there and go, yeah, I can see it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be playing it at an elite level. Zion Johnson started there. And if he does not take the center gig, and he might wind up switching back to left guard, he's playing next year, by the way, for the sake of his own career. They didn't extend his contract. Meanwhile, you got last year's center, Bradley Bozeman. He played left guard. Trey Pipkins plays guard. Jamari Sawyer, do you remember him? Then you're looking at draft pick Carson Barnhart, although he was taken way back in the 6th round. So you look at this, and I just see 5 dudes. All of them not particularly adored in NFL circles. So if you're asking me to handicap the damn thing, I can't. It literally, looking at the Chargers' offensive line, particularly who could play left guard, it's kind of like those debates at the beginning of a presidential campaign where you're looking at a bunch of randos in navy blue suits and you don't even recognize any of them. And then somebody has to talk the most junk, and that's how they go ahead. Like our current occupant at the White House. But I digress. Meanwhile, it's curious about what could have been done at center, and I don't know if it's a deep draft class for those guys a month or so ago. But if you're a fan of the Bolts, I ask you this, and I'm not talking crap. Were you a little upset when Gray Zabel was taken 4 picks ahead of the Chargers' first-round pick? He was taken 18th. You can't help but wonder, did that impact the Bolts' strategy? I'm not even clowning them when I ask that question. The draft, free agency, trying to fit players under the cap, it's always about robbing Peter to pay Paul. You can never get the perfect roster, right? Maybe there was another... What if the plan was take a center in the first, but there was only one guy who was worthwhile taking in the first round? Did that blow up the strategy? Maybe there was another center that deserved to get taken in the first 3 rounds. We do know that Jared Wilson, who's a center, was taken by New England after the Chargers made their 3rd round selection. But here's the thing. Robbing Peter to pay Paul. Did the draft strategy get blown up in the first? Because the Bolts have another really big problem, defensive tackle. Remember, Poona Ford went to the Rams. So the Bolts instead, they roll the dice on the, they wind up rolling the dice on a center. In the third round, the Bolts rolled the dice on a defensive tackle in Jamari Caldwell. And that's why they don't have a potential future starting center lined up. To be honest, if it were me, if you lose the center in the first round, I'd have gone defensive tackle in the first and grabbed that center in round 3. And as for running back, I do realize they took one in the first round, but I'd have put faith in Najee Harris. Now look, this is just me talking. I'm not trying to sit there and tell you I'm smarter than Jim Harbaugh and Joe Ortiz. They turned around the good ship Charger after they got plowed into the iceberg by Brandon Staley. So I'm not trying to be too hard on the guys, but I do find it curious how draft strategies wind up playing out. Also, ESPN posed a rhetorical question, and let's start by recognizing that rhetorical questions are designed to be irritating. Is Ladd McConkey a true number 1 receiver? And for that matter, what the hell is a true number 1? If you're thinking about a guy who overwhelms the opposing corner, striking one deep route after another, wins the so-called jump ball, and then pounds on his chest like he's in Gladiator and does a TikTok dance in the back of the end zone, well then no, Ladd McConkey's not a number 1. But if it's the stats, McConkey gained 1,149 yards with 7 touchdowns last year, and no one else damn near came close to that wearing powder blue. So I don't know. Maybe he is. Slot receivers are rarely considered the number 1, though. Don't tell Cooper Kupp that, but they rarely are. But the Chargers have to put McConkey in the slot so that he can avoid the big physical corners and run clever routes. He's a huge pain in the ass to cover. But does he qualify as a, quote, so-called number 1? Pro Football Focus, or PIF, is one of the many media outlets sifting through the flotsam and jetsam of undrafted free agents. Are there any diamonds in the turd? Well, they really like center Willie Lampkin, formerly of North Carolina. He's small at 279 pounds, but he is a former wrestler, which suggests he knows how to utilize balance and his hands. In the Senior Bowl, he was able to hold down his own against Walter Nolan, who was a tackle taken in the first round by Arizona. This does not make him a potential starter. He's probably 3rd on the depth chart right now. But you could also see him subbing in across the line if he learns the craft. And Lord knows you wonder why the Chargers didn't go out and sign that guy after the draft. The Rams will play in London, by the way, against Jacksonville. Big whoop. I saw a number of bloggers totally suffering urinary incontinence while describing the Rams' schedule release. Totally don't care. The Galaxy manager Greg Vanney and defender Maya Yoshida were among those sanctioned by Major League Soccer for violating the mass confrontation policy. The New York Red Bulls were warned. One player was fined there. The reason the Galaxy faced stiffer punishment is because it is a second infraction. Also, wingers Gabriel Peck and Joseph Paintsil will not be available for today's match. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Talk to me once again, about the state of Dodger pitching. And for that matter, Savi King. How awkward is it to keep playing after a player eventually needs heart surgery? And if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We're talking LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Corte El Queso production. Take care.